You didn't stumble upon these words by coincidence. They arrived the moment your inner compass clicked into alignment, drawing a line between who you were yesterday and who you are ready to become today. Long before you pressed play, an unspoken question had already formed in the quiet corridors of your mind. The answer, hidden for centuries in the whispered lore of the Kybalion, has now stepped forward, gentle yet unyielding, to meet you so eye to eye. Imagine knowledge so subtle it travels as vibration rather than ink, lurking behind symbols, myths, and half-remembered dreams, revealing itself only to those willing to pierce the veil. Hermetic tradition calls that veil chance, yet reassures us chance is merely a law we have not learned to read. You can sense that law humming under the surface of everything, between each breath, beneath every heartbeat. Because the moment you asked for clarity, reality answered with this very narrative. All creation begins within. Before stone becomes temple or word becomes vow, there is thought, intention, a seed of pure awareness. Your presence here is the outer bloom of that seed. A billion intersecting possibilities converged so you could meet these lines now, precisely when you were poised to receive them. The ancients understood this phenomenon. Therefore, they wrapped their insights in riddles, delivering wisdom by torchlight inside echoing sanctuaries that existed half in the world and half in the unseen. At the center of those sanctuaries stood a figure whose legend bends chronology itself. Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, sovereign of wisdom, power, and devotion to the source. More than a man, he embodied a living bridge between Egypt's Thoth, keeper of divine script, and Greece's fleet-footed Hermes, messenger who crosses every threshold. He founded the earliest mystery schools, where learning unfolded through direct experience rather than memorized dogma. Disciples decoded hieroglyphs as portals, chanted vowels that cracked open inner chambers, tracked the stars to map secret tides of the soul. They discovered the greatest altar was not carved from basalt, but from silence within. Safeguarding that silence demanded discernment. Imagine handing a glowing blade to someone still blinded by ego. What havoc might follow. Thus the custodians sealed their teachings behind the word hermetic, a promise that power stays dormant until the seeker's heart overshadows the seeker's pride. The method was straightforward: hide infinite truths in plain sight. Only when the initiate's vibration matched the embedded code would meaning blossom like invisible ink warming under flame. Legend speaks of 35 treatises penned, or perhaps dreamt, by Hermes, treatises on the geometry of consciousness, on vibrational healing, on the resonant mathematics of spoken language. Many vanished when flames devoured the Library of Alexandria, yet a spark endured, smoldering quietly until 1908, when a slim volume surfaced, bearing the imprint of 3 initiates. They titled it the Kybalion. It is not a book in the usual sense. It is a tuning fork. Strike it with earnest intent, and your inner architecture rearranges itself to the note it sounds. Consider its first declaration. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Picture the world you know: streets, rain, electric light, floating inside an ocean-sized dream. In nightly dreams, your mind casts landscapes and characters without effort. When you wake, they dissolve back into thought. Hermeticism stretches that premise across infinity and tells us waking life is an analogous projection, sustained by a boundless, self-aware field some call the source, others simply call mind. Names shift, the pulse beneath them does not. Modern physics now tiptoes toward the same precipice, finding particles that refuse to crystallize until observed, as though matter itself awaits the verdict of attention. If reality is malleable at the behest of consciousness, then every belief you harbor shapes the mirror around you. Suppose a chorus of old voices inside you chants that prosperity is scarce or love unsafe. The universe, impartial but exquisitely precise, obliges by sketching experiences to confirm those frequencies. Yet shift the inner broadcast through honest self-inquiry, through the difficult art of choosing a kinder premise, and the outer landscape must eventually redraw itself. This is neither superstition nor hollow optimism. It is resonance. Recall a morning when you woke buoyant, gratitude sparkling in your veins. Traffic smoothed, strangers smiled, small synchronicities dotted the hours like breadcrumbs. Compare it with a morning burdened by dread, every step snagging on resistance. The external world had not changed, only the channel through which you perceived and therefore co-authored it. Still, awareness alone is not mastery. The untrained mind is a hall of echoing loops, replaying inherited scripts on repeat. Hermetic masters therefore paired insight with responsibility. Wake up, they urged, and take the reins. You are the dreamer inside the dream. Your thoughts are stylus strokes upon the luminous tablet of becoming, which leads naturally to the law of cause and effect. Every vibration launched returns bearing fruit, not reward, not punishment, simply echo. Think of it as cosmic bookkeeping that never misplaces a decimal. Plant kindness, and perhaps at a time you least expect, kindness circles back. Sow complaint, and complaint multiplies. Gravity cares nothing for belief. Step off a ledge and you fall. So too with this subtler gravity of mind. And still the wheel turns, because existence is rhythmic, a pendulum that swings from crest to trough. High tide, low tide, inhale, exhale, expansion, repose. When life contracts around you, it is not a cosmic verdict, but an exhalation, inviting pause, integration, rooting. Roots deepen in darkness so branches may someday touch with higher light. Everything that rises will return, and everything that falls may rise anew, provided we learn to surf rather than thrash. Polarity rides within that motion, two ends of one continuum, cold and heat, sorrow and joy, fear and love. By sliding along the scale rather than battling its extremes, the alchemist inside you transmutes the dense into the radiant. Anger can harden into bitterness or refine into brave resolve. The substance is identical, only the frequency differs. Transformation, then, is not destruction, but elevation. All phenomena vibrate. Stones hum slowly. Thoughts dart faster than light. Spirit hums beyond measurement. Your current reality is a collage of vibrations you have consented to host. Swap complaint for gratitude. Stare down a limiting story until its foundation crumbles. Breathe prana into the forgotten chambers of your body, and the collage begins to shimmer, rearranging pixel by pixel. Purpose itself is subject to this flux. It is not a single pedestal awaiting discovery, but a necklace of luminous beads, each representing a desire that pulled you forward at a specific stage of becoming. Desires expire because you evolve. That is not failure, but graduation. Leave the spent bead lovingly on the trail and let the next one ignite. All motion is spiral, whispered Plato, meaning every return to familiar terrain occurs from a loftier vantage than before. Recognizing these intertwined laws, mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, the dance of creative principles, dissolves the illusion of randomness. Life becomes a living manuscript whose glyphs rearrange in response to the ink of your awareness. You may obey these laws unconsciously or enlist them consciously. Either way, they sing, tireless as stars. The choice is not whether they operate, but whether you conduct or sleepwalk. Once that truth sinks past intellect into marrow, a new archetype awakens within, the initiate. An initiate does not wrestle the river. She studies its eddies, senses its hidden undertow, then sets her craft at the perfect angle to glide downstream with minimal strain and maximal wonder. Challenges still arise, yet they arrive as tutors rather than tyrants. Loss reveals value, delay sharpens intention, silence becomes the fertile hum between notes. The more finely tuned your alignment, the more swiftly reality replies. A thought ripples outward and returns as coincidence. A hunch surfaces, and within hours the outer world corroborates it. These winks are not marvels. They are the ordinary conversation of an intelligent cosmos with anyone quiet enough to listen. Power, therefore, is redefined, not domination, but dialogue, co-creation with an orchestra long mistaken for random noise. And so theory begs practice. Knowledge unused calcifies into yet another forgotten legend. Knowledge lived becomes wind in the sails. The Kybalion hands you instruments, mentally polish them, then wield them while brewing morning tea, while talking with loved ones, while stitching dreams on sleepless nights. There is no arena too mundane for alchemy, because reality itself is forged in the furnace of the commonplace. The shift from curiosity to practice often begins with something small, a lone moment when awareness pierces routine like sunlight through an attic window. You are washing a cup, water pooling over porcelain, mind drifting toward old frustrations, when suddenly you notice the current of thought itself. In that instant, observation disarms momentum. The complaint that was about to spill across your tongue simply evaporates. A pin drop of silence widens, and you feel power at its most unassuming, the authority to withhold a vibration unworthy of your unfolding story. That cup moment is the birthplace of mastery, because Hermetic law never insists on grand gestures. It asks only that each mundane act become a ritual of alignment. Pay attention often enough, and the laws stop reading like metaphysics and start behaving like anatomy, reflexive, dependable, integral. You sense mentalism working as transparently as muscle memory. Every neutralized judgment, every chosen thought, reshapes the subtle ligaments that hold your reality together. Soon Correspondence steps forward, as reliable as echo. Soothe your inner dialogue, and outer scenes mellow to match. You find that disagreements soften, traffic stills, unpredictable windfalls arrive in the precise shape of your new interior climate. This is not superstition, but calibration. Change the angle of a mirror, and the reflected world tilts accordingly. The law of vibration follows, weaving cause and effect into real time. Picture the mind as a harp stretched across the ribcage of the universe. Each emotional tremor plucks a string that hums into the field, and the field hums back, sometimes instantly, sometimes seasons later, but always in key. Nothing escapes that exchange, not even hidden feelings you dismiss as private. The universe is a conductor with impeccable hearing. As these insights settle, Polarity invites a deeper game, conscious transmutation. Let us say a pulse of envy flares within you when a friend succeeds. Old habit might swat the feeling away or bury it under forced congratulations, But Hermetic practice proposes a subtler art. Instead of exile, you escort envy to its opposite end of the spectrum, admiration. By tracing envy to its root, unexpressed desire, you honor the desire, bless the friend's success as proof of possibility, and thus transform static jealousy into kinetic inspiration. The energy remains, but its pitch rises. Envy becomes rocket fuel. That is alchemy on a city sidewalk. Yet life does not unfold on a single axis. Rhythm ensures that every ascent will crest and wane. There will be mornings when the harp strings slacken, thoughts crawl, gratitude feels synthetic. The untrained mind panics, labeling the dip a failure. The initiate watches like a sailor charting tides. Ah, ebb tide, time to mend nets, revise maps, rest limbs. Contraction becomes invitation. Polish your craft, restore the nervous system, nourish the feminine principle of receptivity so the next surge can propel you farther than before. Cause and effect, meanwhile, works quietly in the background like gravity arranging rivers. Each decision plants seeds in the causal soil. Some sprout overnight, others gestate for years. If a storm arrives, the initiate does not curse the sky, but examines yesterday's sowing. Personal storms, social storms, even global storms bear the watermark of collective choices. Responsibility, then, is not guilt. It is authorship. Owning the pen frees you to draft a new chapter, which brings us to the law of gender, often misunderstood, yet pivotal in translation from theory to tangible creation. Within every mind hum two complementary forces. The masculine quality propels, shapes, chooses direction. The feminine quality receives, gestates, weaves connective tissue. Imagine launching a vision, masculine, into an inner sanctuary where intuition nourishes it until ripe, feminine. Imbalance breeds distortion. Relentless action without listening becomes brittle ambition. Endless dreaming without decisive movement stagnates into fantasy. Harmony, instead, feels like breath. Inhale of insight, exhale of execution, cycling in perpetual creative heartbeat. These laws do not operate in silos. They interlace like strands of DNA coiling into living code. Observe one consciously, and the others stir. A single kind thought's mentalism lifts vibration, softens polarity, alters correspondence, sets new causes in motion, nudges rhythm toward gentler arcs, invites the receptive current of gender to cradle fresh possibilities. Each gesture is a lever that pivots the whole cosmological apparatus, proof that small hinges swing wide gates. With time, the initiate develops an instinct for symbolic language threaded through daily life. A broken appliance the morning you consider quitting a stagnant job may echo your inner circuitry calling for overhaul. An overheard phrase in a stranger's conversation might distill the precise guidance your intellect failed to supply. Tarot readers call this synchronicity. Hermeticists call it ordinary weather in a sentient cosmos. Either way, ignoring such signals would be like refusing to read road signs while speeding down an unfamiliar highway. Let us anchor the philosophy in a tangible scenario. Suppose financial turbulence has shadowed you for years, periods of scarcity punctuated by brief reprieves. The root may hide in a childhood memory, a slammed door, an argument about bills, a parent's anxious face imprinting money equals tension. That snapshot became a basement script, humming low-grade alarm every time prosperity neared. The universe, honoring vibration over spoken wish, obliged by keeping funds just out of comfortable reach. Awareness illuminates the pattern, Polarity offers the lever. You relive the memory not to suffer it again, but to transmute tension into liberation. Through breathwork, journaling, therapy, ritual, choose your instrument. You rewrite the emotional frequency beneath the scene. In place of fear, seed gratitude for resources already present: sunlight, fresh water, the mind that observes itself. Slowly, repeated gratitude tilts the inner gauge until outer cash flow mirrors the new baseline. This is not luck, it is architecture. Another example, relationships. If partners consistently withdraw, examine the inner narrative: love abandons. Perhaps an ancestor lost a spouse in war, and the unresolved grief trickled down as genetic caution. You meet the imprint with compassion, invite it to speak, then slide along the scale toward trust. Daily, you affirm love remains, not a hollow mantra, but a felt sense cultivated through body awareness, where nervous system and imagination join forces. As the sensation of steadfast love stabilizes, reality supplies matching reflections: friends who stay, partners who choose presence, even strangers who greet you with unexpected warmth. Again, architecture. As you experiment, remember rhythm's counsel. When old echoes resurface, you are not back at zero. You are spiral climbing, revisiting lessons from a vantage one floor higher. Journals help reveal this geometry, chart emotional climates, track subtle victories, notice how storms that once lasted weeks now dissipate in hours. Metrics of internal weather speak louder than any external accolade. Soon an elegant paradox emerges. The deeper you master cosmic law, the less you crave control. Certainty softens into quiet assurance. Ambition ripens into purposeful play. You still craft visions, set goals, sign contracts. Yet underneath hums the innocence of a traveler who trusts the road. Should detours arise, curiosity replaces panic. What panoramic view did the straight path conceal? Creativity flourishes in that elasticity, because fear no longer strangles possibility. At society's scale, the same dance applies. Collective narratives about economy, environment, justice are mass mind projections shaped by billions of individual vibrations. When enough people upgrade their internal code, the shared dream pivots. Revolutions of consciousness have toppled empires, birthed scientific renaissances, reformed laws once deemed immovable. Each personal transmutation therefore contributes to planetary alchemy. Private work is public service in disguise. Yet knowledge alone does not guarantee integration. Modern culture offers buffet spirituality, memes, workshops, quick-fix glossaries. The initiate navigates that buffet discerningly. Does a teaching invite deeper presence, greater responsibility, wider compassion? Keep it. Does it inflate ego, bypass discomfort, sell certainty? Thank it and move on. The true path is not a consumer good. It is a pilgrimage across shifting inner terrain. Over time, pilgrims meet. Resonant fields attract. Friendships form where conversation leaps nimbly from practical plans to metaphysical schematics without a breath of incongruity. These alliances create pockets of coherent frequency, hubs where new realities prototype themselves. Think of monasteries, maker spaces, intentional communities, or even small online circles. From these hubs, transformed possibilities ripple outward, nudging the collective dream. Consider one such ripple now. Somewhere, a young scientist watches quantum equations dissolve into paradox. Across an ocean, an artist channels unknowable grief into song. In a hospital ward, a nurse clasps a trembling hand, transmitting calm without words. None of them quote the Kybalion, yet each demonstrates its principles in deed, proving that language is merely one vessel for truth. Vibrations precede vocabulary. The laws care nothing for intellectual allegiance. They respond to coherence, sincerity, and the courage to live from awakened heart. And so we return to you, cup still warm in your hand, awareness flickering like candlelight upon stone. The next thought you entertain is a brushstroke, the next breath a tuning note, the next decision a chisel shaping unseen marble. Observe, choose, refine. There is no ceremonial gong announcing mastery, only a gradual quieting of inner turbulence, a widening horizon of synchronicities, and the unmistakable feeling that life itself has begun to conspire, not merely for your comfort, but for your evolution. That feeling grows subtle roots the more you honor it. Little by little, you notice your posture shifting, shoulders uncoiling, eyes lifting from sidewalk to skyline, as if gravity itself has recalibrated around your intent. You answer messages with steadier breath, taste flavors more vividly, sense space between seconds where once there was only hurry. This is not self-improvement in the glossy magazine sense. It is the gradual recolonizing of the present moment by a consciousness that used to drift everywhere except here. Every practice shared by ancient lineages ultimately funnels toward this single skill, sustained, lucid presence. Without it, mentalism devolves into daydreaming, polarity into ping-pong mood swings, rhythm into manic highs and listless lows. Presence steadies the field. Think of it as the tuning peg that keeps every other string from unraveling mid-performance. Techniques abound: counted breathing, candle gazing, mindful dishwashing, but their outer forms matter less than the inner quality of alert tenderness they nourish. When presence thickens, even the most ordinary corridor becomes a cloister echoing with song. From this still point, another hermetic secret unfurls. Service is not an optional virtue. It is the circulatory system of cosmic law. Energy hoarded stagnates. Energy shared returns tenfold, purified. The initiate therefore asks each morning, where can my overflow land today? It may flow into mentoring a younger colleague, tending a neglected garden, surrendering a seat on a crowded bus, or simply offering unhurried attention to someone who feels invisible. These acts look modest, but in the quantum economy, they trigger compound interest. Goodwill travels farther than sound and loops back in configurations you could never script. Cause and effect does not balance books in a single currency. It pays interest across lifetimes. Yet true service refuses martyrdom. It springs from abundant wells, not depleted reservoirs. That is why self-care, so often caricatured as indulgence, takes on spiritual heft within Hermetic ethics. Your body is the resonant chamber through which vibration enters the world. Neglect the instrument, and the music warps. Nourish it, and every note rings clear. Eat foods that remember sunlight. Move limbs in ways that feel like praise. Rest without apology. The laws engage no moral scoreboard. They calculate coherence. A coherent being influences reality more effectively than a frazzled one, regardless of how noble the latter's intentions might appear. Inevitably, coherence draws tests. Imagine you've cultivated inner equilibrium for months when an unexpected crisis, a lost job, a sudden illness, a betrayal, shreds your comfort. Old reflexes surge, panic, blame, grim prophecy. Here Hermetic wisdom ripens from philosophy into lifeline. Pause, recall rhythm's inevitability. Crest follows trough, dawn follows midnight. Then explore polarity. Where in this collapse hides opportunity? Maybe the lost job frees time for a calling long postponed. Perhaps the illness exposes dormant grief, begging for release. Betrayal can scorch illusion, making room for relationships rooted in truth rather than performance. None of this bypasses pain. Alchemy is not anesthesia, but it alchemizes despair into direction. To support that alchemy, the initiates devised rituals both simple and strange. One involved writing the perceived obstacle on parchment, then ceremonially distilling its essence into a single opposite quality, scarcity transmuted to generosity, isolation to communion, confusion to clarity, and reciting that quality as a living mantra until its frequency etched itself into neural pathways. Another relied on planetary hours, performing focused action when cosmic rhythms amplified the mood required, a cosmic version of planting seeds in fertile moonlight. Modern life may scoff at such timing, yet few would schedule a major launch on a day forecast to blizzard. Griffith Observatory simply measures subtler weather. Contemporary parallels lurk in neuroscience experiments, showing that intention synchronized with peak dopamine release cements habits faster. Meditation apps deliver chimes at intervals designed to catch brains when default mode networks briefly quiet. Biofeedback monitors coax heartbeats into coherence, echoing ancient breath practices. The divide between esoteric and scientific shrinks each year, proving Hermes correct. Secret and mundane differ only in vantage, not in substance, so even language obeys these laws. Words are vibrational capsules. Speak them enough and they sculpt probability. Notice how often conversations default to complaint or gossip. Each repetition invests psychic currency into realities nobody actually wants. The initiate becomes custodian of vocabulary, selecting verbs like a gardener chooses seeds. Instead of, I can't afford, try I'm prioritizing differently. Swap, I'm exhausted for I need replenishment. Words do not magically erase circumstance, but they adjust inner posture, which in turn invites new circumstance. Dialogue becomes spell work the moment you realize consonants and vowels struck the first chords of creation. Community accelerates everything. Find or form circles where these practices are norm rather than novelty. Study groups, dream-sharing salons, artist collectives, even virtual cohorts crossing time zones like ley lines. Agreed-upon rituals, such as weekly gratitude reports or synchronized silent minutes, magnify resonance exponentially. When several minds hold a shared image, the image gains gravitational pull, opportunities lock in, resources appear, skeptical bystanders witness coincidence clusters, dense enough to bend opinion. History remembers such nodes as Florence during the Renaissance, Black Mountain College, the early internet, brief convergences where collective vision outran inertia. If geographical community feels unreachable, remember correspondence. The macro mirrors the micro. Your single apartment can become a temple through intentional layout. Clear objects that drag memory into outdated frequency. Decorate with colors that elevate mood. Keep books that spark wonder within arm's reach. Screens that siphon energy out of sight. Space broadcasts just as hearts do. Enter a cluttered room and feel vibration stagnate. Step into a well-tended studio and creative electricity tingles skin. Architecture, like language, is silent curriculum. Occasionally, cynicism circles back, whispering that all this is pleasant fiction in a world snarled by systemic injustice and climatic upheaval. Hermeticism does not deny these crises. It diagnoses their root, collective disalignment. A civilization addicted to extraction of oil, of labor, of attention simply magnifies the extraction habit inside individual psyches. Heal the micro habit and the macro structure gradually destabilizes. You may not single-handedly rewrite economic policy, but you can stop extracting vitality from your own future self through chronic worry. Stop mining conversations for self-validation. Stop rating tomorrow's well-being by numbing tonight. Personal sovereignty is not a retreat from activism. It is the wellspring from which effective activism flows. As inner and outer reality rebalance, the question of purpose revisits in evolved form. No longer a fixed destination, it resembles weather patterns that change with altitude. You start by asking, "What do I want to do?" Then progress to, "What seeks to move through me?" Creativity shifts from ego expression to vesselship. The artisan becomes flute, the physician tuning fork, the parent gardener of souls. Hermes called this state becoming animating mind, an identity transparent enough that the all can look through human eyes without distortion. Living as animating mind does not erase individuality. It burnishes it until quirks become channels rather than obstacles. A stutter transmutes into comedic timing, shyness into acute listening, analytic obsession into forensic genius. The very traits you once masked emerge as signature frequencies, essential to the song only you can sing. Diversity is not cosmic accident. It is strategy, ensuring the orchestra contains every pitch imaginable. And now a final principle glides into awareness, one rarely cataloged yet implied by all the rest. Gratitude, not as etiquette but as magnetic infrastructure. Genuine thanks forms a feedback loop, confirming to the universe that its deliveries reached receptive hands. In response, supply lines widen. Gratitude also conditions nervous tissue to recognize abundance even in seed form, ensuring you do not trample new shoots by mistaking them for weeds. Hermetic gratitude is active, not performative, a letter unsent, a smile toward rain, a whispered acknowledgement to the heartbeat for its tireless rhythm. Integrate these practices piece by piece, and time begins to glow at the edges. Minutes stretch or condense according to need. Relationships bloom with fewer words. Intuitive nudges guide you down side streets where chance meetings alter trajectories. The mind whispers less, observes more. Dreams turn lucid, sometimes prophetic. None of this marks you as chosen. It simply verifies alignment. The laws favor no one. They merely echo what they receive. One evening, perhaps months from now, you will close your eyes and feel a soft click. No fireworks, no chorus, just unshakable knowing that you are inside the dream and the dream is inside you. In that stillness, a fresh invitation may surface. Pass the torch, share an insight, teach a workshop, write a poem, lend patience to someone navigating their first cup moment. Transmission keeps the lineage alive. Secrecy was necessary when torches were scarce, but the modern world shivers in shadowed abundance, craving flame. So the cycle continues. From seeker to initiate, from initiate to steward, from steward back to humble observer, always a beginner before the boundless. As you read these closing lines, feel the subtle geometry of your story rearranging. Every memory, every wound, every triumph lining up into a staircase, spiraling toward a horizon you once mistook for ceiling. No spotlight dazzles the summit, only the quiet thrill of perspective gained. Ahead, some new thresholds wait. Conversations, books, mentors, perhaps a video already cued by algorithms that obey laws they do not comprehend. Approach each threshold with playful solemnity. Digest what resonates, discard what rings hollow, refine what survives experimentation. Growth is iterative, revelation infinite. And when the mind tilts toward fatigue, return to presence. Warm tea on lips, hum of refrigerator, moonlight pooling like silver ink on windowsill. Here, at the crossroads of inhalation and exhalation, the entire hermetic tapestry converges into three simple recognitions. Everything is alive. Everything is connected. Everything is mind. Carry these recognitions like secret compass points. They will never fail you because they are stitched into the marrow of existence itself. Should doubt arise, hold the compass to your chest and feel the faint magnetic tug toward truth. Then step forward, one deliberate stride at a time, into the dream you are perpetually co-authoring. The universe, ever attentive, will match your cadence.